The Fool, a novel written by hiermonk Savatie Bastovoi, based on the events described in the life of Saint Simeon, the Holy Fool for Christ of Edessa, originally composed by Bishop Leontius of Neapolis in Cyprus, and later included in the collection The Lives of the Saints by Saint Simeon Metaphrastes. Chapter 8. None rejoiced more at the fool's victory than the beggars. They knew his ways. They hoped that by enduring a stinging slap they might goad the fool into hurling his heavy coin purse after them in a fit of pique. Eager for their reward, they were the first to scramble from the market, racing to stake out their spots before the church doors. But the fool never came to the church that evening, nor was he seen the following day. Rumors soon filled the void. Some claimed that once he felt the weight of the gold in his hand, he had fled to a distant city to buy a manor and drown himself in luxuries. Others swore they had seen him at the house of Easy Virtue, laughing as he squandered his fortune on more carnal delights. Upon hearing of the fool's winnings, Deacon John and his wife were convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt. The man was a charlatan. To them he was nothing more than a debauched monk, likely expelled from some monastery for his sinful habits, perhaps even possessed by a demon. What fueled their indignation was the fact that the fool had indeed been spotted at the house of Easy Virtue. The madam herself assured any curious soul that this monk paid his way just like any other client, spending hours, sometimes even entire nights, behind closed doors with her girls. The truth, however, was quite different. With the money he earned, the fool would hire a woman he called his friend. Once they were locked safely in a room, he would unpack meat, fresh bread, and other treats, telling her it was high time she took a little rest as well. He made the women laugh with his wild stories, and in turn they opened their hearts to him. They confessed things they dared not tell another living soul, for every person, as they say, carries a burden in their heart that cannot be revealed to just anyone. The mistress of the house of Easy Virtue began to complain. Ever since the fool had started visiting, her business had taken a turn for the worse. Two of her most sought-after girls, the very ones who brought in the bulk of her gold, had vanished one after the other. Rumors even suggested they had left that life behind to marry. On one occasion, the madam declared openly that she would rather never touch the fool's cursed coins again. She was convinced that if he kept coming, she would soon have no girls left at all. It was within those same shadowed walls that the fool heard the latest whispers of the town. The news was grim. Following the scandal of the money bag and the clash with the philosopher, the horse had snapped. In a fit of rage, he turned on his own troupe, blaming the dancer for the fool's misfortune. He accused her of testifying against the fool to Deacon Anastasios, which led to the fool's brutal beating. In the heat of the argument, the horse had drawn a knife and struck her in the abdomen, nearly taking her life. According to the horse, ever since that woman had betrayed the fool, a dark cloud had hung over the troupe. Their luck had vanished, their pockets were empty, and nothing had gone right for them since the day the fool miraculously survived. Seized with fear, The dancer had fled the city, seeking refuge in the derelict stables on the outskirts. But the blade had bitten deep. Weakened by the constant flow of blood, she found herself hovering on the threshold of death. When the rumors reached the beggars, they descended upon her like jackals drawn to a carcass, stalking the shadows of the stable to satisfy their most wretched desires. For the first 2 days, the woman fought them off, her voice trembling as she threatened to have the horse slaughter them all. But as her strength waned and her meager food ran out, her resistance crumbled. She was forced to endure the touch of those loathsome men, trading her dignity for a scrap of meat or a crust of bread. By the time the fool stepped into the stables, the woman lay broken upon a heap of filthy straw. Her wound had festered, and the air around her was thick with an unbearable stench, a rot so foul that even the beggars had finally recoiled in disgust. She had been left there alone, starved and forgotten, with nothing left but the darkness. A single beam of light, as pure and refreshing as a mountain stream, seeped through the cracks of the withered door. It fell across the woman, coaxing her to lift her head. At first, she thought it was merely another of the beggars returning to satisfy his lust, and with him, perhaps, a meager scrap of food. A flicker of desperate hope brightened her face, and she managed a jagged smile. But as her eyes adjusted to the glare, the smile died. There, framed in the doorway, stood the fool. He was unmistakable, his silhouette towering over the stature of any common beggar. Summoning the last of her strength, the woman dragged herself upright, huddling against the cold stones of the wall. An involuntary groan of agony escaped her lips as the movement tore at her festering wound. "Are you here for the same reason as the rest?" she rasped, her voice cracking with disbelief. "Or have you come to finish the job, fool? Yes, I see you, you damned sorcerer. You've come to kill me because I betrayed you to Anastasios, haven't you?" The fool stepped silently into the shadows and sat beside her. He drew a clean bundle from his bosom, and suddenly the stale air of the stable was filled with the rich, warm scent of roasted meat and cheese. The woman broke into loud, jagged sobs. She threw herself toward the food, devouring it with a desperate haste, her tears mingling with sudden peals of laughter. She ate and laughed all at once. "Fool," she chuckled through a mouthful of bread, "do you want to sleep with me too?" "Eat now," the fool said softly, adjusting the cloth napkin he had spread over the pile of straw. "Fool," she laughed again, "Aphrodite told me you'd been to see her, but I didn't believe her. Oh, fool, you should know that I am sick. You must treat me gently. Look." With a sudden, jarring movement, she hitched up her dress to reveal the injury. The wound itself was not large, but because of neglect, it had festered and swelled. As she moved, a thin trail of pus oozed down her hip. "Who did this to you?" the fool asked, his voice steady, as if seeking to anchor the wilder rumors of the town to this grim reality. "The horse. He said I was his curse, that he lost the money because of me. And, oh, fool, some say he might even be my father." "How could that be?" "My mother swore it was so, but he denies it to everyone. He says no one can know for sure, because my mother brought in so much coin in her day. You see, when you're young, the money is easy, but later no one wants you. When I was young and profitable, he was kind. Now he says he has no use for me. That is our life full, short and bitter. My mother died young too. How old are you? The fool asked. Until that moment he had seemed almost distant, but now his attention was sharp. The woman stopped eating. She stared at him, her eyes wide and vacant, as if searching for a memory that had drifted out of reach. Well, she whispered finally, I am 32. The fool glanced at the woman's face and realized for the first time how young she was. With the makeup smudged on her eyes and cheeks, her pale, painted face appeared beautiful and startlingly pristine. You know, fool, my name isn't Venus. That's just what they call me. What is your name then? He asked, a sudden spark of curiosity in his voice. My name is Calliope. Calliope. It's beautiful, isn't it? Yes, the fool murmured, his voice subdued. Do you know what it means? No. Does a name need to mean something? Calliope means beautiful and good. The woman gave a small, satisfied chuckle and leaned back, her strength spent. The fool watched as the tension left her body. Hunger and terror had kept her upright, but now that she was fed and sheltered, the fever finally took hold. She grew limp, her skin beginning to flush with heat. Fool, she moaned. Where were you when you were 32? In the desert, he replied. She let out a dry, rattling laugh, her hands still pressed against her side. Tell me, fool, was it better for you there than it is for me here? Not much, the fool said with a soft laugh. He rose and went outside to gather firewood, knowing that from this hour on he would have to play the part of the physician,